Next up, we have Mike Durose, President and CEO of Lavras Gold Corp. Lavras is focused on the exploration and development of its Lavras do Sol project in Brazil, a highly prospective new gold district. Please help me welcome Mike.
Thank you, Stephen, for the introduction, and thank you, everybody, for joining us for the Lavras Gold presentation. I'm very happy to be here. Our focus at Lavras is gold exploration in southern Brazil. We basically are a relatively new company. We went public in April of 2022. We were spun out of a predecessor company called Amarillo Gold. At the time, Amarillo had two assets. We had basically a shovel-ready gold project in central Brazil called Mara Rosa, and we also had our Lavras do Sol gold exploration project in the south. Hochschild's bought Amarillo Gold out primarily for the shovel-ready project at Mara Rosa. So what we did was we were spent out with $10 million in cash. We created a 2% revenue-based or net smelter return royalty on all the exploration ground surrounding that Mara Rosa project. And we had about 500,000 ounces of gold resources down at Lavras. So our strategy was to get 2 drills on site down and mobilize them down to Lavras. And we've literally been drilling every day for the past 24 months or so. We have made 6 new gold discoveries since that time. Including our Fazenda de Posto discovery, which has got the market excited. And we have actually doubled our gold resources now to about 1 million ounces in 2 of 24 projects on our property. Happy to say that in the short 2 years that we've been a public company, we were actually recognized as one of the top 50 performing companies on the TSX Venture Exchange last year, based on share price performance, increase in trading volume, and market cap increase. So a real testament to the fact that you can actually create a lot of value through very focused and technically based exploration. Our real goal at Lavras is to demonstrate that we have an economically viable gold project on our property, and that will kickstart the district, as they say. For those of you who are not as familiar with Brazil, it's a jurisdiction which is very, very much similar to Canada in the sense that it's a natural resource-based economy, both in terms of agriculture as well as mining. Vale is the second largest iron ore producing country or company in the world. And the consequence of that is that they have a very well-defined process from going from mineral exploration through to mine development and ultimately production. Specifically in terms of the gold mining industry, Brazil ranks 15th in terms of gold reserves and resources. And there are 2 companies that are actually building and have built over the last couple of years 2 gold mines to production, one being a Montreal-based company called G Mining, who many of you are probably familiar with. They have a project called Tocantinzinho, which will go into production in the back half of this year. And then Hochschild's Mining, who bought out our predecessor company, and the Mara Rosa mine. That mine has actually gone into production about 8 weeks ago, should be in commercial production this quarter. In terms of our share price performance, as I mentioned, we went public in April 2022, and during that time we made 6 new gold discoveries. You can see that the share price really didn't react for the first 18 months or so, even though we were making what I consider to be pretty good progress. However, in September of last year, we put out a fairly significant drill hole. It was 340 meters of 1.1 grams per ton gold at our Fazenda de Posto discovery, which is literally about 150 meters to the northwest of 500,000 ounces of gold at what we call Butiá, which is a near-surface gold deposit. As a consequence of that share price move, we were able to complete a non-brokered private placement. We raised $13.7 million at $1.35 a share with no warrants. So we've been able to keep our capital structure really tight, which I think is really important. Currently, our market valuation is about 80 million Canadian. We had about just under 10 million in cash as of March 31st. And during our financing, I brought in Kinross for 5% of the company. Many of you may be aware that Kinross is actually the largest gold producer in Brazil at their Paracatu mine. They produce about 500,000 ounces of gold a year. And they are, the masters of mining big open pit, low-grade type deposits. Also brought in Rob McEwen, a very well-known gold mining investor based out of Toronto. And management and insiders are about 28% of the company. So tight capital structure, good long-only type of shareholder register, and I think that's gone a long way to supporting our share price performance. Now moving into the fun stuff, our project, where as I mentioned, our key focus is in southern Brazil. Basically, there's about a 2-hour flight from Sao Paulo to the south to the port city of Porto Alegre. That's a very large city. It's about 1.5 million people. It's the capital of Rio Grande do Sul state. And you drive by tarmac roads, very similar to what's in this photo, to our project. It's about a 4.5-hour drive. I should mention that the flooding that you've seen in Brazil over the last month or so actually happened in our state, in Rio Grande do Sul state. Porto Alegre did get hit pretty hard, but things are starting to get a little bit better from what I've been told. But for example, the airport there was shut down and probably won't open until about September. So there are some logistical challenges. Our property down at Lavras was impacted really just to the extent that we got a lot of rain, so we had to shut down our drilling for about a week or so, but we're pretty much back on track and drilling again now. Most of our team is from Lavras do Sul or surrounding areas. That's really important because it creates a good social license to ultimately build a mine in the area, and certainly we're getting a lot of support from the local community. Very quick word on geology. We're dealing with what we call an intrusive hosted gold system, and so this is just really a picture of a volcano, and you can imagine if you're just looking at that magma chamber, essentially what you're looking at on our property are the remnants of that old magma chamber. The rocks we're dealing with are about 590 million years old, so they're what we call Proterozoic. So the question is, why is that important? Well, it's important because these types of mineral systems or gold, copper systems can be very, very large. So I've given some examples in this slide. Porgera, Cripple Creek are in the range of 30 million ounces. Olympic Dam, which is an IOCG deposit with uranium and copper, actually is one of the largest gold deposits in the world as a byproduct, over 100 million ounces. To provide some perspective, the average gold deposit size is about 3 million ounces. And when you pull out these very large monster gold deposits, the average gold deposit size is actually close to 1.5 million ounces. So they're big targets. You can see physically these deposits occur from anywhere from 3 kilometers to maybe 6 kilometers in dimension physically. We actually have gold and gold copper anomalism over an area of about 11 to 12 kilometers at Lavras. So it's a very large mineral system. Obviously, the key for us is to figure out where those economic concentrations of gold, in our case, are. This circular feature is what we call the Lavras do Sul intrusive complex. If you're sitting in a helicopter looking straight down, basically that's the remnants of that old magma chamber that I'm talking about. And it's about 11 or 12 kilometers in diameter, so very, very large. We've completed a lot of regional exploration work. We've done regional drone surveys, which gives us good information on the structural setting of this area. We've also completed a lot of regional soil work. So those large kind of red, green, and yellow areas are kilometer scale golden soil anomalies. All of those labels that I'm showing you here on this diagram are old workings that the Portuguese worked in the late 1700s when they arrived in Lavras. And so they're old trenches, pits, tunnels, that sort of thing. We know where they are. And you can see a lot of these gold anomalies are centered on those old workings. The red sort of feature in the middle of the intrusion is actually the town of Lavras. It's about 7,000 people. So from an infrastructure perspective, we can get to our targets within 20 minutes to half an hour just driving. The other aspect of what we've done is we've consolidated our land package. So we've got about 22,000 hectares of contiguous, the key word being contiguous, claims. So we cover all the favorable geology. And as I mentioned, we've actually made 6 new gold discoveries, as shown in the white labels, and reinterpreted one called Candelera, which is a kilometer scale gold structure that was discovered in 2007, 2008 by Amarillo. But we have 1 million ounces in 2 of these 24 targets that I show here. One of the things that's coming out of our work, and everybody asks me, what's the grade, what's the grade? Well, we have a lot of different grade depending on the targets because the geology is actually quite variable and complex. But we have what we call low-grade disseminated bulk tonnage style of mineralization, such as what we're seeing at Butiá, Fazenda de Posto, Matilge, for example. But we also have what we call very high-grade bonanza-style visible gold in a kind of quartz stockwork style, where we're getting things like 4 meters of 43 grams per ton gold or 3 meters of 28 grams. So there's a lot going on here geologically, and it's complex, but that geological variability will ultimately translate into what I call mining flexibility, so you can start to optimize the economics of these projects over time. This is our Butiá project, kind of a plan view, again looking from a helicopter down. It's about 500,000 ounces, about 1 gram per ton or so, but right at surface with no overburden. What we're doing here with our 10,000 meter drilling program that's underway is tightening up that resource and looking to expand it. We're finding some very higher grade mineralization sitting right at surface, such as hole number 16, where we hit 154 meters of 1.1 grams per ton gold, and with that, within that 109 meters of about 1.4. So we're optimistic that we're going to find a higher grade core right at surface, which will obviously enhance the economics of the project. Fazenda de Posto discovery, the 3.5 football fields of gold mineralization that we found, is literally located about 150 meters to the northwest of this Butiá discovery. So you can see what's starting to happen. We've got over 500 meters of strike length so far of mineralization, with Butiá sort of sitting there hopefully with an open pit sort of starter, and then working your way to the northwest towards Fazenda de Posto. This is a west-facing section sort of showing Fazenda, the discovery hole number 2. You can see that we actually hit about 114 meters of what we call cap rock, and then we got into the yellow rock there, what we call the epicyanite, which is hosting the gold, with a higher grade core, 160 meters, 1.8, developing at depth. Since that time, we've scissor holed to confirm the discovery, and we've drilled laterally, so we've got an area of about 200 meters in aerial extent. We've actually drilled this thing down to over 400 meters vertical now, so it's developing into something nice, but we have a ways to go to understand it completely. Wanted to just show you, they say a picture's worth 1,000 words, so here's sort of 4,000 words worth of pictures, but it really just shows the transformation of these original fresh granites, the original magma chamber, if you like, into the mineralized gold rocks at the bottom right-hand side. So it's really an aggressive chemical change of these rocks, and it's opened up a lot of exploration opportunities for us in terms of our geological thinking. This is an oblique view looking at Butiá, Fazenda de Posto. You can see we've drilled Butiá down to 300 meters and Fazenda down to about 400 meters so far. And just to provide some perspective here, Butiá and Fazenda de Posto are actually located in the sort of bottom left-hand side of this diagram. And you can see we've got these kilometer scale kind of gold and soil anomalies along the western edge of the intrusion. So a lot of targets to continue to explore. But what we're going to do is try and understand what we have at Butiá, Fazenda de Posto, and start de-risking it. And we'll continue to explore these other targets to really try and understand what we have. I think ultimately, conceptually, what you'll find at Lavras do Sol is that you're probably going to have some kind of a centralized mill or processing facility when you'll be feeding this mill with various sources of gold over a long period of time. So a lot of work to do, but it's quite unique for a little junior company like Lavras to be controlling basically a district scale exploration opportunity like this. And lastly, I just wanted to mention that we actually created a royalty, a 2% royalty on this Mara Rosa project in central Brazil. So we're now moving up to the central part of Brazil here. That royalty is a 2% revenue-based royalty on about 65,000 hectares of regional exploration ground. That's shown in the gray on the slide on the figure on the left-hand side. Getting into the details, on the right-hand side, Hochschild has built an open pit mine, what's labeled Posse, that little yellow zone. So we do not have a royalty on that production, just to be very clear, but Franco-Nevada has a 1% royalty on it. Royal Gold has a 2.75% royalty on it, but none of those two big royalty companies have the option on the exploration package, which we have. And we believe that over time, this Bustino discovery, about 3 kilometers to the northeast, will become a cash flowing royalty for us. And all of those little red dots are targets that Hochschild will be exploring over time. So the leverage there is for every 100,000 ounces of gold they can define, times 2%, times a $2,000 gold price, that's worth about $4 million US to us. That's our leverage to that royalty. I don't think it's being baked into our share price, but we'll figure out how we create value for all of our stakeholders with that royalty. And so just to sum it up, our near-term objective, again, 10,000 meter drilling program, is to define what we have at Fazenda and also try and increase the footprint at Butiá. Medium term, we'll start de-risking that on the permitting side. Long term, we're going to continue to explore to unlock the value of our property package. That's it. Thank you very much for your time.